Hello. Today's guest is known for her classical paintings of beautiful black women from another era. Not servants or slaves, nor fetishized or exoticised, her opulent portraits are redefining the role of women of colour in art history. With her latest work, co-created with Aurélie Levy, Queenie, the godmother of Harlem, the French-born, New York-based artist continues to rediscover and represent black people erased by history. The book retraces the life of Stéphanie St, a gangster from 1930s Harlem. Hello to Elizabeth Colomba, who's in Paris for the American Literature Festival, where Queenie is being presented. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's a delight to have you. Now, tell us what sparked this desire to centre black people, especially black women, in period pieces, because it goes back way before this book, doesn't it?
It does go back before. I think I was... my first encounter with, art, I went to art school and I've been admiring art, obviously, all my life. Now, being a painter, I missed seeing myself represented in classical work. And because I have a tendency to love classical, I wanted to reintegrate the black body in this history, in this visual history. So that's what my practice focuses on.
And the women in your paintings, they exist in opulent surroundings. They're the focal point in a class of art where they've been long depicted as subservient. That's if they appear at all. Now, these women, they have black features, they're wearing head wraps, their hair is kinky. They're black women portrayed as black women and not in a way to make white people feel comfortable.
Right.
We don't often see that. How would you explain the power in that choice and refusing to reimagine black women as anything other than black?
Well, I believe the power is seeing yourself represented at all times and in what you feel you're comfortable with. So really represent the woman, the black woman, with all that makes her, which is her hair, and not being exoticized or being reinterpreted with the white gaze. It's important to me, certainly, and I feel to my community. And I think it's definitely a key in my work to really represent them in not only powerful way, but in a way you do not expect them to be. And certainly in that kind of surroundings, in that kind of fashion.
Now, back in 2019, the Musée d'Orsay here in Paris held an exhibition focusing on the forgotten black models who inspired the French avant-garde. You actually painted a portrait for the show, which was shown in New York. Tell us about it.
Well, I do have, part of my practice is also to find historical characters and give them some sort of light. And Laure, who is part of the Olympia, she's seen in the background in the painting, and I wanted her to be center stage, to be really the hero of her own work. So I've decided to do some sort of a series about black models, and Laure is one of them. And I thought it was important not only to know her name, but to her to possess her space.
Now, with exhibitions like this, which are put on by important cultural exhibitions, there's also the hit series by Shonda Rhimes. I don't know if you saw it, Bridgerton, where we see a multiracial cast in a period drama, and also France's announcement to enter the performer Josephine Baker in the Pantheon Mausoleum in November, the first black woman ever to have a place there. Do you think the world is beginning to give black women in history recognition?
I think it started. I think it's long overdue, certainly, and hopefully we'll see more women being recognized for their talent, their power, and their contribution to history, whether it's cultural, political, and artistic.
Now, a real-life woman in history that you're putting in the spotlight is the Harlem Mafia boss, Stéphanie St.
Yes.
You've created a graphic novel with Aurélie Levy called Queenie. It immerses us into the Harlem Renaissance of the 1930s, which is a period of intellectual and artistic renewal of the black community. We'll talk about it in a moment, but let's take a look. Now, just to start with, I can't help but see an echo with your own life with this character, Stéphanie St. You're both Martinican women living in Harlem.
Yes. Absolutely.
So is that part of why you were so interested in her?
Absolutely. Just having a figure that is coming from Martinique is very rare, and somebody who was so important in the Renaissance of Harlem, who obviously had a powerful situation and was giving back to her community. Yes, she was part of the mafia, but she also gave back. She was an activist. She was a feminist. And those are all traits that I'd like to see myself in, but certainly the fact that she was coming from Martinique and decided, with the cause that she had in hand, to move to New York and make the best of it. I really, really related to that.
And there are two current TV series set in Harlem, Run the World and The Godfather of Harlem with Forrest Whitaker, where he plays a gangster in the 1960s. Yes. Queenie is going to be made into a TV series. The rights have been picked up. What do you think makes Harlem so fascinating?
I think the history of Harlem is very rich, and certainly in the 20s with the Renaissance. And you had great thinkers like W.E. Du Bois. You had painters. And I think this cultural world really is still attractive today because it really gave a base to, Black Americans and the foundation of cultural Black American.
And what you were working on this book during that time in the Black Lives Matter protests. How did that impact it?
It has, it was interesting is that there's this scene that is very powerful when our hero, Queenie, is being attacked and raped by members of the Ku Klux Klan. And the way she is on the floor and the way they really pin her down was very similar to how George Floyd was treated. And incredibly, I drew that scene before the murder. So when this tragedy happened, we decided to really give an homage to that moment and added the text, "I can't breathe." So really, it's a marker in time for that moment that really, I think, changed the world. Hopefully changed the world.
And why do you think it's important that the world know about this character, Queenie?
It's important because, first of all, it's very rare to see female in this kind of world. It's a very violent world, it's a strong world, it's usually a man's world, and there are a lot of female in it, and certainly Black female. And I think it's important to rebalance how you see a place like this. We know Al Capone, we know Luca Luciano, we know Dutch Schultz, and there's no reason why we should know about Stéphanie St, also known as Queenie.
Before you began devoting most of your time to painting, to work like this, you were a storyboard artist, so you worked a bit in the film industry. A few years ago, you premiered your first film.
Yes.
Which was a 2-minute short for the Metropolitan Opera on Cinderella. It starred the South Sudanese model Grace Boll. What sort of reaction did you have for that?
It was very positive. It was interesting because the theme of the opera was Cinderella, Cendrillon. And I think it was a bit of a groundbreaking moment when I chose to represent Cendrillon, not in a very different way, which is, having Grace Boll, bold and beautiful, but really redefining what beauty means and what being a princess means. So I think it was surprising, but they really welcomed it.
And what can you tell us about what your latest projects are, what you're going to be doing next?
Well, next, I'm going back to New York. I'm going to have a couple of exhibitions. I have one at the Park Armory Avenue, which is an institution in New York. I'm going to be part of a show at the LACMA, and I'm going to be part of another show at the Met Museum next year. So I'm quite busy.
You're very busy. Elizabeth, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. You're in Paris for the Festival America Literature event, which is being scaled back this year. You'll be part of a discussion about today's America, which is taking place on Friday, the 24th of September, and as well as Queenie, which is going to be translated into English. Next year, people can see your work at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts in a show called Taking Space until the end of September. Now, we always play out with our guests' cultural pick of the moment. What have you chosen for us?
I would choose Alice Neal, fantastic American painter who had a fantastic retrospective at the Met Museum. And I believe it's worth seeing just to see powerful visual work by a woman who was unapologetic.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to leave you with Alice Neal, People Come First, which is being shown next at the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao in Spain until February. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
I was born in 1900, and I've tried to capture the zeitgeist. I lived in Harlem for 25 years, Spanish Harlem. I wanted to show the environment plus the people that were living there.